This is Eagle Al, and today I will be talking about why Kenny G will be RB1 of the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's get straight into it. All right, so let's get into it, and I will explain why Kenny G will be RB1 for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I will break down actually every running back position on the team. Like, what's the situation with Penny and Scott? What's the situation with Sherman? What's the situation with Swift? And what's the situation with Kenny G? So I had this graphic up here, and I'm gonna go over it little by little. So we're gonna start with the first one. Kenneth Gainwell has the most touches among running backs in camp by far, 40 touches. He also has by far the most carries with the first team with 21. Nobody else has more than 11. Gainwell also has 11 catches, which is second most. He might be RB1. Now, I always said this, right? Kenny G, among the group, including Swift, is the best running back on this team. I said this soon as Swift got traded. Everybody like, yeah, Swift is going to be RB1. I'm like, hold on, wait. Swift is good. Swift can be great. But to label him RB1 soon as he get in the building, I don't think that's the case. Nah, look at Swift highlights. Look at what Swift did, this and that. I'm like, hold on. Kenneth Gainwell is a better north and south runner, and Kenneth Gainwell can move the chains better than Swift. Now Swift is dynamic, but I think, in my opinion, when I watch them both, I believe Kenneth Gainwell can move the chains better. It's no question that Swift is the better pass catcher. He is. You've seen the graphic. Kenneth Gainwell got the second most, but we already know who got the first most. Swift is so good as a pass catching running back that I think he could have made it to the NFL being a slot receiver. That's how good he is as a pass catcher. So, I just think it's Kenneth Gainwell's spot to lose. Now, Kenneth Gainwell, for some reason, they have him rotating in the game, in the preseason game, and Kenneth Gainwell just looked bad, and Swift is just cooking. Then that's different. That's different. But in my personal opinion, I think it's Gainwell's spot to lose because I did put up the graphic, the unofficial depth chart, and the way they had a running backs, they have like dividers between them because they saying all those dudes could potentially be RB1. They had Boston Scott, they had Swift, they had Kenneth Gainwell, and they had Rashad Penny. But they did have it in alphabetical order, and people was like, "Well, the graphic is in alphabetical order." And I'm like, there are multiple reports still coming out that Kenneth Gainwell will be RB1. So I don't think that's no question. Now let's talk about the Swift situation. What is going on with DeAndre Swift, right? I'm going to get this graphic back up. So DeAndre Swift, what's going on with him is that he's becoming less involved as camp has gone on, as far as with the first team. All right. He also has a total of 13 carries, which is last among the top five running backs. So he's not getting a lot of carries. His work is almost all in passing games. So they use him in passing situations, not really running situations, where he has 12 catches. He might be strictly a third down running back. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that about Swift just being a third down running back, right? With Swift, at some point you got to ask yourself this question, and this might sound harsh, but it is what it is. The Detroit Lions, right? During the season, Swift was the guy. Williams come in, Jamal Williams, I believe that's his name, that went to the Panthers. I could be wrong what team he went to. The the Detroit Lions was like, nah, Swift, you stay on the bench. We're gonna rock with Jamal Williams, who ended up getting 1,000 yards again, and he was paid at, but I can't remember the team he went to. And then not only that, when Jamal Williams left, they was like, nah, we don't. want you here. We're going to trade you to the Philadelphia Eagles and we're going to draft Jamar Gibbs. We got to ask ourselves that question. Why Detroit was so pressed to get rid of DeAndre Swift. Now, we know teams that made bad trades, like Eagles and A.J. Brown. I'm just saying, we know teams that made bad trades. But why the Detroit Lions were so hell-bent on, like, we're just done with DeAndre Swift. Now, again, DeAndre Swift is a great pass-catching running back. But can he get between the tackles like everybody say? Not watching highlights. Watch game film. Let me put up his stats. Besides the Eagles that he destroyed, and I give him that, he cooked us. What other games did he do that in last year? People could say Williams did take a lot of time on the field, but why? Why Detroit decide to go that way instead of sticking with Swift, who is the more dynamic running back? I'm just saying, Swift is a Philadelphia Eagle. I won't bash him, but I will ask questions about Swift. Why? Even the Philadelphia Eagles is like, yeah, we get it. He's a pass catching running back, but we want Kenneth Gainwell to take majority of the carries. Kenneth Gainwell got 40 carries. 40. And Swift don't have near that, but Swift had a lot more catches than Kenneth Gainwell during practice. I'm just saying, I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm doing is asking questions. All right, so let's go back to the graphic, man. Probably gonna skip around just a little bit because I don't want to talk about Penny just yet. I'm sorry. Let's talk about Trey Sermon, right? Trey Sermon isn't treated like a running back that is going to be cut. He get as much first team work as Penny. He has more carries and catches than Scott or Penny. The Eagles have him under a contract for 2 years as opposed to 1 for Penny. That could be the difference. So what I took from this is that Trey Sermon might be the third best running back on the team. I know it should default to Penny because he was a first round pick with the Seahawks. We had this amount of yards, but I think Trey Sermon might be the third best running back. And you probably want to keep Trey Sermon because he's your biggest running back. Kenneth Gainwell is somewhat small. Swift is somewhat small, but Trey Sermon got a little body to him. Like he can get up the gut. So pause. So he might be your third best running back. I love Scott, love Penny, but Trey Sermon might be your third best running back. And the Eagles love Trey Sermon. Even every time we talk about the running back room, Nick Sirianni always got to bring up Trey Sermon. Like, hold on, Trey Sermon is a dog. Trey Sermon is a dog too. And like the notes say, he's under a 2-year contract. Penny's under a 1-year contract. If it comes down between those two, it might be a money thing. If they are too close and like who they're going to cut, it might come down to a money thing and an injury history. Let's be honest. And we might just like, you know what? We just going to stick with Sermon and Penny. We're going to let you walk your walk. But I think it's going to really come down between Penny and Scott. That's what I think it's going to come down between. But let me get into that. All right. So, lastly, let me read this last graphic. Penny is the hardest to read on. He has the most carries with the third team offense among the top 5 running backs, but he has the second fewest with the first team offense. But he has the second most touches overall. Why aren't they getting him more reps with the first? He is not involved really in the passing game. He's either such a lot that they don't care or he's truly on the roster bubble. Now, I think these two are on the roster bubble. I think it's Penny and Scott is on the roster bubble. And depending on what they do in preseason, the joint practices, that will tell you who will make the team. But if I had to put my money on it, and it's actually between these two, I think we go Boston Scott, because what we know about Boston Scott, and Penny is really good at special teams too. But what we know about Boston Scott is A, he's usually healthy. B, he's really good at special teams, because when he wasn't the kick returner, we couldn't really get nothing going. But when Boston Scott back there, we got a spark. I would say that we definitely got a huge spark from the kick return. And actually, Boston Scott is starting kick returner as we speak. As we speak, Boston Scott will be starting kick returner, and that might be his way of making the roster. That really might be Boston Scott's way of making the roster. But as the notes say, and Elliot Short Parts wrote down, it's really hard to get a read on Penny. And he has the second most carries, but really with the third team, not as much with the first team. He don't really catch the ball out the backfield, so it's hard to read like what direction the Eagles are going on with Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny did get the first team reps, I believe the first practice, but really since then, haven't gotten a lot of first team reps. But again, if it comes down between these two guys, I'm putting my money on Scott. Now, if it came down between Trey Sermon and Scott, I say I'd give it to Trey Sermon, but it really looks like Penny is actually on the roster bubble. But I got to wrap it up, man. I don't want to drag out a running back video, but I'm just giving my opinion on the running back situation. I'm really giving my opinion on it. But hey, man, what do you think and how do you feel, man, about the running back situation? In my opinion, based on the notes, based on the facts that's out there, I believe Kenneth Gainwell will start. I know a lot of people will disagree with me. It is what it is. That's why I love my guys, because y'all disagree with me. Y'all don't just say, yeah, you right. Well, nah, y'all let me know. Like, y'all, you tripping, Eagle. You tripping. What's his name? Swift is going to start. You tripping. I don't agree with y'all, man. I don't agree. But this is Eagle Al. I'm up.